Hello, I am Franny, and I don't know about you, but just love reading ever since I was little. I've always had my nose in a book. So it's no surprise really that English literature is my favorite class, and I'm planning on majoring in literature. In college, none of my friends are really into literature, so sometimes it can get a bit lonely as I'll feel like the only one who really cares about books. I just wish I had someone else could share this passion with other than our teacher. Miss Carlo, she just went on maternity leave, so other than the odd email we probably won't keep in touch much on the first day of the new term. Elle was so nervous about who our new teacher would be. Elle was praying that it wouldn't be Mr. Smith, as he is so strict and he always picks the worst books for his classes to read. As I walked into his class, I noticed our new teacher. Well, it looked like it was my lucky day. He was definitely the same age as my dad, but looked cool and slightly unkempt with a mop of messy hair and a lot of stubble. As I took my seat, he smiled at me, and if I wasn't mistaken, his gaze king lingered. I blushed and pulled my books out of my bag. He introduced himself as Mr. Webbs, and then we all had to introduce ourselves to and mention our top three favorite writers. I couldn't believe it when he said his favorites were exactly the same as mine. He complimented me on my good taste and said he would bring some books in for me that he thought might be to my liking. I left the class feeling like I was floating for the rest of the day. I couldn't stop thinking about him. After school, I saw him getting into his car and he waved to me and said, "See you tomorrow, Freddie." I cycled home with my heart racing, and that night I thought about him non-stop. I couldn't wait for our next class together. The next day when I reached his class, there were a pile of books on my desk. He'd slipped a note inside saying, "I hope you enjoy them as much as I did," and then he hadn't added a smiley face, or was it a winky face? I devoured them, and when I'd finished them I also slipped a note inside saying, "Thank you so much." I thought about adding a heart, but then decided not to. We kept going in this way for the next month. He always left me a note inside, and in some he'd even written little messages on the pages giving his opinion. At first I thought he was doing this because he wanted to encourage me and help broaden my knowledge of the great writers, but then I started to think maybe he liked me as more than just a student. One lunch I caught him staring at me through the dining hall doors. He must have been staring at me for like 5 minutes straight. I wanted to get to know him more before Miss Carlisle came back. It was almost the last day of the term, and Mr. Webbs wasn't sure he'd still be subbing for her next term. My heart sank at the thought of not being able to see him every day. I decided he needed to do something. The next day was the very last day of term, so I put on my brave face and made my way to his office before class. That day I knocked on his door, and as I entered I noticed he looked a bit sad. He must have been feeling upset that it was his last day with me too. He asked me to take a seat, and as I did so I spotted a framed picture on his desk of a young she looks similar to me. This was unbelievable. He saw me looking at it and I asked who was he, then went on to explain that it was his daughter who had sadly passed away from cancer 2 years ago. He said they'd moved to the city to try and start afresh and let go of the past couple of years of sadness. He then looked at me with tears in his eyes and said I remind him a lot of his daughter, and that she had also loved literature as much as I do, and that it had made him happy to be able to share his favorite books with me as he would have loved to have done that with his daughter. I didn't really know what to say back to him. I felt so stupid. Here I was about to declare my love to a man that had lost his daughter, and I had gotten all the signals wrong. He apparently didn't want me to be his lover. I told him I'm so sorry. For class he looked a bit confused and asked why I had come to see him. I just said it was some questions about the exam and thought I just asked him in class. I quickly left feeling humiliated. What had I been thinking? Clearly I'd been reading too many romance novels recently. I hurried off to class, tried to forget all about it. What did you think of this story, please?